Hi, my name is Voudrie and I'm the Digital Media Manager here at Celebration Church. So I am over all of our social media, our website, and things like that. And one of my roles and responsibilities is I create content for our social media accounts so that we get to pour into your lives more than just on our Sundays and during our services, but throughout all of your week, we get the opportunity to pour into you. So that's one of my jobs. So I get to film and edit and create series such as Real Talk. And for the last few months, for every Real Talk, I've been the one behind the camera filming and just directing and things like that. And I was waiting to film my own Real Talk until I would come to a week where no one was available, and that was this week. I asked 5 people and no one was available. And I wanted to let you know also that I did rearrange my desk just so you could see my super cool plant for this video. So you're welcome. I hope it makes your day as much as it makes mine every day. Today I want to share with you just a part of my journey and just honestly the season of my life that was the most influential season of my life, but it was also one that during the season I was honestly really ashamed of it. So when I was about to graduate high school, I was really praying about what to do next with my life, where to go to school, like where to go to college, if to go to college. You know, I had a lot of dreams and things that I knew God wanted me to do in life, but I didn't know if that was the next step or the timeline for those things. But as I was praying, I felt clearly that God said that I was to not go to college, and that for His plan for my life, it would actually inhibit me if I did go to college, that He wanted to use my lack of education just to display His glory. So I made a decision to not go to college, and what the door that God opened for me is after I graduated high school, I actually moved to the Middle East for a semester and lived there in a close country as a missionary, which was an absolutely amazing opportunity that I am so extremely grateful for. I learned so much living on my own for the first time, and just living in a Muslim country and about that religion, but also how to live as a Christian and proclaim the gospel in a way that you can reach people in the close country without getting yourself deported. But it was a really great opportunity, and it was amazing. And as I was ending my time in the Middle East, I started to pray again about what to do after the Middle East. So I felt like after a lot of prayer, I felt like what God told me to do was nothing. To just come home and to wait, to not get a job, to not spend time in school or learning in a setting like that, but to do nothing is what it felt like in my mind. So I came home from the Middle East and I did just that. For me, I have completely surrendered my life to God, and I've just determined that in my life, obedience is not an option, that I have surrendered my right to tell God no, that when He asks me to do something, I don't have the right. I don't think that I am not powerful enough to tell the creator of the universe no, so obedience is not an option to me. My only two options are yes and yes. So when God told me to do that, it was something that was very difficult for me, but I obeyed. I am a really go-getter, driven person, goal-oriented. I have this need in me that I know that I was born to change the world, and not just change, I feel like that phrase is used so often, but I feel like I was literally placed on this earth to change society, and just change culture, and that's something that I just feel really called to do, and to do things on a mass scale to affect people on all 4 corners of the world. And it was really hard for me to not have a job, to not do anything that really greatly affected other people, and to just be what I felt like I was viewed as just a lazy person who wasn't doing anything with their life. During that season, looking back, I see it differently, but during that season, I would whenever I was at church or places, I would intentionally avoid talking to people, because the question I was always getting asked is, Hannah, where are you going to college, and what are you doing with your life? And it wasn't even a question of am I going to college? It's where you're going to college. And for those of you who are maybe praying about whether or not you're supposed to go to college or something, I do want to say that college is not for everyone. God uses college in so many people's lives, and it is definitely His will for so many people, and I love higher education, but it is not God's will for everyone. And if it is not God's will for you, that is okay. You not going to college does not mean you are stupid, does not mean you are lazy, does not mean you just don't care, but if you have made that decision and you're choosing to obey God in that way, bravo, keep it up. But it was not a popular decision that I made. I had so many people tell me that I did not hear the voice of God, that was wrong, and that I would never be able to make enough money to live off of, that how in the world am I going to have a life, am I going to get a job if I don't go to college? So it was really difficult, and I'm thankful that my parents did believe that I was hearing the voice of God and allowed me to stay home and walk in obedience. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for that. I appreciate it. But that was just a decision that I made that no one really celebrated. There was one person that I have a memory of who actually celebrated that decision in my life, and I'm forever changed by that one person. So if there's people in your life who are stepping out and obeying God, celebrate it, because sometimes it is really hard. But I was just really ashamed of the fact that I was viewed as lazy, and viewed as just not really caring about anything, because that was the total opposite. And it was a season that it was really hard for me to do nothing. And I remember so clearly this one time that I was just really talking to God, because obviously I have a love for missions and stuff, and I was telling God one day, I'm like, God, why didn't you send me, why am I not in Africa right now? That I could be in a hut in Africa, sleeping on a dirt floor, and I would not be complaining about it at all. I feel like that would be so much more worthwhile and worth your time for me than to be here doing nothing. And He clearly responded to me, and He said, Hannah, when you told me that you would do anything for me and go anywhere, did it include this? Did it include you staying at home and not having a job and not having activities that you're wasting your time with? And that was a really needed slap on the face of just, I really did tell God that I would do anything for Him, and if it means this, okay. But it was honestly, looking back on that season, hindsight's 2020, and I look back on that season of my life and realize that it was the most crucial and most foundational season of my life. I know that everything that God is going to do in my future and everything He is currently doing in my life, He is building off of the foundation and the things that He did in me during those 2, 3, 4 years. Because I didn't have a job or anything like that, I was able to spend 2 to 3 hours for a quiet time every single morning, spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in worship, which completely changed my life. I fell in love with worship like never before in that season, and it became my rock, and worship has changed my life, and it's the most important thing. That's how I connect with God, is worship, and that is still translated into my life today. Worship, just yes. I was able to read through my Bible multiple times and just really strengthen my understanding of Scripture, and just all the things I believed. I started questioning, and not questioning in that way, but just started okay, I believe this, but why? What Scripture actually do I base this belief off of? And God just really refined my focus on making sure that everything I believe is actually scripturally based, and just making sure I don't just take people's word for it, but actually find the scripture proof for myself. During that season, I also started writing songs. I probably wrote about 60 songs in that period of my life, and I just really fell in love with songwriting. In that time, God also gave me my voice and physically changed it and healed my voice. Whole nother story, great, amazing story, which I love. But so I was able to start to be able to sing in that season. And that season, God also just took me into radical encounter after radical encounter with Him, where He really just broke off countless lies that I believed about myself, that I picked up in the 18, 19, 20 years previous to that season. And He just really strengthened my identity about who I am, who He is, that He is good and that He is loving, and that I am His daughter and that I have authority, and that I am a child and that He has called me for all these greater things. In that season, I read one book called Supernatural Ways of Royalty by Chris Valentin, which completely changed my life. I would highly recommend that to every single person. Most life-changing book I have ever read outside of the Bible. I've read it so many times and I've given it to so many people. I would highly recommend that book. But that season was just something that completely changed my life. And it's something that I'm so extremely thankful for, that God gave me a place where I could do that financially, that my parents allowed me to live at home in that season, but also that He spent the time and spent the work refining me, allowing me to walk through things that I needed to walk through from my past and just heal and grow and be strengthened. I know that everything He's going to do in my life, He's going to build off of this season. One parallel that I find in Scripture to this season of my life is the story of Joseph and how he walked through the journey of being a slave and then being thrown in prison. And I really feel like that was my season of just being not necessarily hidden, but just concealed and just strengthened in that season. And I have a self-portrait of sorts that I painted of myself, which I'll pop on the screen. And it's just, I feel like this is what God showed me in that season, is that true growth happens when no one sees it. Who you are behind closed doors when no one is there, that's who you really are. Your roots, that is what's important. You don't water your leaves, you water your roots. That's where true growth happens. And everything that happens above the surface that people see, it is all dependent upon the health of your roots. So I felt like this was a season of God really growing me in the dark, growing me in the place where no one saw me, and I was not very visible to the outside world during that season, but God really grew me and strengthened me in that season of my life, and I feel like that's real growth, and that's who I really am. What my roots are, that's my true self, not what everyone sees about me. That's just a reflection of who my true self is. So whatever season of life you're in, grow where you are planted. Learn to love the dark seasons and the times where you do have time to spend with God, or just whatever ways your life might be uncomfortable right now. Dig deep. Use those things. Choose to let those things build you up, to refine you, and just submit to God's discipline in your life. He is a loving Father, and He uses absolutely everything that you are going through, and He will let no season of your life go to waste. And when He tells you to do things, it might cost you. Don't base your obedience on whether or not you get an applaud from people in your life. God is using the season you are in, and He is growing you, and He is going to strengthen you. And you will be grateful for this season of your life if you look at it from God's perspective.